This video is about persons who claim they have sold their soul to the devil or believe they have sold their soul to the devil. And it's also about people who are worshipping the devil who don't know. There are many systems at play, and the agenda that they have is to misguide, mislead, corrupt, and to lead us astray from the right path. And if we are not aware, we will fall prey to these systems. So we need to recognize them. Christ says, and this is in John 8:32, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." As Christ says, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father except through me." And there are multiple systems that is actually trying to stop us from getting to God, and therefore causing people to not want to live their life for God, but so they actually now revert to heathenism and the culture of the world. For anyone new to the channel, my name is Patrice Elliott. I'm an integrative psychological therapist and a metaphysician. My work involves metapsychotherapy, mindfulness, mediumship, spiritual guidance, and metaphysical treatment. On this channel, I give simplified practical information on metaphysical, psychological, and esoteric knowledge. To help the YouTube algorithm, do like, share, subscribe, and comment. Thank you. Me and these silly glasses. I'm actually going to read from Psalms 82. God standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth among the gods. How long will you judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? Defend the poor and fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and needy. Deliver the poor and needy. Rid them of the hands of the wicked. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. John 10 verse 32. I don't know where to look or what to do with these bloody glasses. But anyway, John 10 verse 32 says, Jesus answered them, "Many works have I showed you from the Father. For which of those do you stone me?" The Jews answered him, saying, "For a good work we stone thee not, but for blasphemy, and because thou, being a man, makest thyself God." Jesus answered them, "Is it not written in your law, I said, ye are gods? If he called them gods, unto whom the word of God came, and the scriptures cannot be broken." Anyway, the point of the matter is, we are being dumbed down. We are to accept that we are simple humans, and that which is less than the gods. What the hell? And so in Psalms is saying that we will live and die like humans, which is basically a type of animal. And we will live according to, oh my God. So a mosquito is getting me. Basically, the way the system is set up is for us to live as though we are simple humans, simple animal with this animal body, and to operate from our animal brain. And this happens because we are being trapped in a lower vibrational state. The truth of who we are is being hidden from us, okay? So that we will live in the lower brain, the reptilian and the lower mammalian brain. And that we will never raise up to the higher mind or become awakened or aware of who we are, that we are gods. And I told you that this video is about people who think that they've sold their soul to the devil. This is a lie, okay? Because we can't sell what does not belong to us. If we sell a bike, for example, bikes have codes on it, or cars have particular marks on it. Unless those things are removed and it can't be identified, it cannot be returned to the owner, right? Human beings are marked, and our soul is marked. Even our bodies are marked. We can be identified by our fingerprint. We can be identified by our dental records. We can be identified by pupil. We can be identified by DNA. Once upon a time, we didn't know these things. This is over time, as our science have evolved, that we understand that we can be identified. Our soul, when it leaves our body, knows exactly where our body is to come back to it, okay? There are different aspects of ourselves that know how to locate itself. When the Bible says even the very hairs on our head is numbered, it means that there's a code. Not the amount of hair that you have, and if one falls out, you know, God's going to know, like, oh, you had 3 billion, trillion, whatever. I don't know how many hairs is in there. And one is lost. No, there is a code, and it can be found. Everybody, wherever you are, can be located by spirit. Okay, because there are codes. So there are so many different markers, so many different ways to identify us. When companies make products, the product has a code on it. There's a reason. When we dial a person to call somebody, they have a number that you dial. That's how you find the person. You locate them because they have a mobile phone and they can be located. So spirit locates us by different means that we might not at this time understand. Your soul does not belong to you, and it cannot be sold. It's a lie. And there's another reason I read that scripture, is because Christ is telling you that you're supposed to have power. You are gods. You're supposed to have power. So whenever an entity is trying to tell you or tell somebody, do this and I will give you this, sell your soul and I will give you this, it's a trick. Much like the story of Esau and Jacob, when Esau sold his birthright out of ignorance and took it for a joke. In fact, you know, Esau was hungry, and he wanted the food, right? He wanted it right now, and he said, give it to me, give me some of this stew. And Jacob, being crafty, you know, saying, well, sell me your birthright. Esau's attitude, like, yeah, well, have it. You know, what am I going to do with my birthright when I'm dead, right? And he didn't take it seriously, but Jacob was serious. But for Jacob to actually get the blessing, it wasn't about the inheritance as the elder brother. It was about the blessing that he was going to get from the father. The word, the blessing from Isaac, their father, was so much more powerful than the material wealth that they would receive. And Jacob knew this. Esau did not. Esau had no appreciation. And this is what's happening to the world. They have no appreciation of who they are or the power of their own words. A lot of people think that these entities, I'm going to call them, because it's not Satan. And the reason why it's important to know that it's not Satan, because Satan has a job. Lucifer has their job. But there are other entities that are making people feel like they're selling their soul. And because you think you've sold your soul, it traps you in a certain mental space. Because if you had sold your soul, you couldn't get it back. You couldn't then go on to now become a Christian to say, oh, now, like, it doesn't even make any sense, right? You just be, they'll murk you, basically. They'll unalive you, and you will not be able to now go back and say, oh, I sold my soul to the devil and now I'm a Christian. Like, no, that's not going to happen. Or now you've gone to Islam or whatever, wherever you go to, right? It's not going to happen. I'm trying to get the words out. Basically, I'm struggling. I'm always struggling to get the words out because there's so much going on. I'm trying to stay calm, right? We are gods. We are powerful. Our words are powerful. We don't need to beg, right? And yet, when people go into certain institution, they have no power. Many people who are religious or even spiritual, they have no power. Where is the power? You're supposed to have power. All of us have access to the same power. And all of us have the ability as we incarnate to develop this power, but we are being shut down because we don't understand. And then these entities who bamboozle people into believing that they have sold their souls, just like Esau sold his birthright, just like Satan tempt Christ when Christ was hungry and he was in a vulnerable state, and he was on the mountain because he went to be tempted, in order to show us that we as humans are going to be tempted. That's why the devil came to Christ and said, if you bow to me, I'm going to give you this. And Christ says, we should worship only God. And he said, oh, I thought you said you were God or son of God, so why don't you turn these stone into bread? And Christ says, well, man must not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceed out of the mouth of God, which means that we're supposed to know the word of God. That means that we're supposed to take the word of God as our living bread, as our life source. This is what it means. And he said, oh, if you say you're the Messiah, so it's written that he'll give his angels charge over thee, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. That means you're not to be harmed. And Jesus says, don't tempt the Lord thy God, right? So there's a rebuttal for everything. Satan is a tester. He's there to test you, right? To see if you know, just like when you're at school, to see if you know the curriculum, to see if you've learned the lessons. You get a test. They're there to test you to see what you know. So the scriptures are there to show you that Christ walked the way you're supposed to walk, to show you how you're supposed to walk. If you knew the curriculum, when the tester comes to you, you're going to know what to do. But if you don't know, if you hadn't been studying, you're not going to know what you're supposed to do. When an entity comes to you and say, sell your soul and I'm going to give you fame, and then you'd ask, well, why would I want that? What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Like, your soul is so important, but it doesn't mean you're going to lose your soul. It means to be detached from your soul, to not be able to develop your soul, to move into higher dimensions, right? That's what it actually means. Because we can't sell our soul. It doesn't belong to us. Our soul, it has its purpose and it's its own entity. How can you sell it? There are entities that feed off trauma because they need it. That's the force that they live by. Just like us human beings, we need the lower realm to feed us and sustain us. There are other entities that need to be sustained by the lower realm. Higher entities are directly being fed by source. They don't need to feed on us, and that's why they're good things. We are able to be corrupted because we need to feed. And then the systems that they can manipulate us into becoming deceptive. You see it, there's a lot of deceptive practices. This is one of the devil's work, by the way. The deception is of the devil. He has the power to deceive. And the Bible says he's a liar from the beginning and the father thereof. So anybody who lies, you are worshiping the devil. You are not worshiping God. If you deceive persons, you are worshiping the devil. So that's what I mean. But there are people who are worshiping the devil who don't know, because you think you're following Christ, but Christ is not lying. Christ is not lying. Christ does not have a separate agenda. So we have to be careful not to fall foul to certain practices, like the fake it till you make it thing. This is now you are giving your will over to the devil, right? Because you are being a fake. So, but if you tell the truth, if you say this is where I'm at, this is what I need, you're telling the truth, you're being transparent. This is how your chakra system develops properly. This is how you gain powers from higher sources, right? Because you're developing your chakra properly. But if you do things deceptively, or an entity is going to trade you, so rather than you developing and becoming moral, an entity will trade with you and say, I'll give it to you now, I'll give you certain things now, I'll give you power now if you give me this. And furthermore, you have to do certain disgusting things so that to bind you and to make them be able to see how what is that, certain rituals that you perform is so that they can know how invested you are. And with the trauma that you create through these rituals, they are able to feed, and they give you little crumbs of pretend power. That, by the way, was yours to begin with. And because we want immediate gratification, and also the system causes us to become addicts, so we can't think straight. We just want our fix, we want our hit, right? I don't even know if I've made a bit. I've got some. Do like the video, don't forget to like, just pause, like the video, and go back, go back to watching it. I don't know how you watch videos. Sometimes we watch it on devices that it's harder to press the like, but it's very important for this content to reach other people. So like I said, selling your soul is a lie. Your soul does not belong to you. Your soul is an entity of its own. They want to trap you into fear because that's what they feed on. There are parasitic entities out there that feed on fear, cause you to become delusional. Also egotism, where you feel like you are superior to others, and all of the nasty things that goes along with the idea of selling your soul. And they'll tell you that you must perform these rituals. It's so that they can feed, right? So I think I've covered that. I've made some notes so I can make sure I cover the things that I want to cover. What they want is your will and your attention. So our will is what God gave to us, right? We have free will within limitations, because there's always limitations, right? So we have free will, and this is our will to choose, right? And so when people say, if there's a God, then why does he do and why does he allow this evil? There is a God, but we have free will. God is so entirely pure, and he cannot intervene in the way that we want, or in the way that some people want God to intervene. He cannot intervene in that way, right? Because he would have to do away with all of us for us to be pure, because none of us are pure. It's us through time that have to purify ourselves by learning and upgrading and purifying ourselves, getting rid of the vices. And in the last video I made, I talked about some of those vices, right? Getting rid of envy, jealousy, greed, grief, and much more, right? Because these are the things that these entities feed on, and these are the things that are blocking us from developing properly. And this is why I keep on saying therapy is important, okay? And people think they can negate working on themselves, and you can work on yourself in whatever ways and with whomever you choose, but work on yourself you must. And avoid cults, by the way, or anybody who tell you that you have to work with them specifically because only they can help you. That's a big red flag, okay? Because God has made multiple people out there to be able to help. Because if one of us dropped dead, if I was to drop dead, God has already got other people. I can't tell you work with me because I'm the one who knows. I can't tell you that. I'd be a charlatan, right? You work with whomever you pick. So I talked about we are coded, right? We are coded and we are known, and we can't be lost. We're not lost. It's fear, which we can be trapped in fear, and it changes our perception, and we become disorientated. But you know, myself when I was 18 years old, and other ages when I used to be terrified, you know, and now I'm the person who extract demons, you know, and it's, I couldn't even imagine. I remember some years ago when there was a lady who was talking about, you know, her doing the work that she's doing, and I said, there's no way this woman could be as terrified as me. I did not ever think that I could ever be here. I remember one night, because when I wake up in certain vibrations, I'd usually have nightmares, or I'd see people in my room, or think I'd be, you know. And one night, whilst living in this house that I'm living in now, I woke up and an entity said to me, you would normally be afraid. And I thought, I just turned over and went to sleep. I was like, But back in the day, I would have been like super terrified. And I tell you, these demons here in Jamaica do make you feel like you want to be scared. But you know, we have to do the work. We just have to make sure we're in the right frame of mind and have enough energy. Oh, I do want to mention that there are multiple entities that have their different agendas. So some entities want to feed, right? And and there are certain people, right? There are people who practice certain esoteric practices, because being esoteric is neither good nor evil. It's what you want to use it for, right? Just like a knife is not good or evil, it's what you use it for. Just like food kills so many people, right? So knowledge can be used for good or bad, and that's why we don't teach everyone, and that's why a lot of the knowledge isn't public, because they have to vet. We have to vet who we teach and what we teach them. And because of the state that we're in, when we're introduced to things too soon, it can corrupt us. So there are different agendas going on. I don't know if I've mentioned them all by now because I'm so dizzy. So there are organizations, be it religious organizations, spiritual organizations, that are trying to steal our focus. They're trying to steal our time. They want to steal our will and our identity and our energy. And I'll tell you how our identity is stolen. Culture steals our identity. This is one of the programs that is there. So you are born into certain families, into a race, into a nationality, and then they're going to tell you that this is your culture, or because of your gender, they're going to tell you this is what you need to do. So our identity as sentient beings is already usurped. From the time we were born, we're told that this is what you're supposed to be as a black woman, as a white woman, as a Hispanic woman, as a black man, as a white man, as a this man, as an upper class, as a lower class, as a middle class. So from the time we come out, we're being brainwashed that, you know, who we are. And religion does that too. When you're born into a particular religion, they tell you what the religious beliefs are. And even if you select a religion, they're telling you what the belief system is. Therefore your identity is usurped. And if you're not developing your powers, this is why I mentioned about the powers that Jesus talked about, you know, that we are gods. We're supposed to have power. So if you don't have your power, if they're making you shut down any institution that requires you to shut down your natural abilities that you were born with, you did not go to no devil or no entity to go and get powers. You were born with them, or they were activated in you. And because of, you know, when you remember certain things or you go through certain traumas, you're activated, or things just happen. You know, that's showing you that you have these abilities, and then you will seek to develop them, but doing it in a proper way. So mosquitoes, oh boy, I'm being eaten. We've got mosquitoes at the minute because of too many things on the porch. It attracts mosquitoes. Anyhow, yeah, our energy is being fought over, and I don't know what that says. My dyslexic self, I wrote something. Oh, I think that's meant to say fought. And don't forget to like the video. I'm going to be very annoying. I used to get annoyed at people who say, like the video, like up the video, man, like up the video. I'm like, ugh. But if we have to remind you, because you'll forget. Just like the video if you haven't liked it already. So our culture steal our identity, religions steal our identity, because what they do is they interject ideas into you. Sorry, they project ideas onto you. We interject our cultural belief or religious beliefs, and then we don't go outside of that to discover what we are. So we have to be careful of cult. And don't forget that culture starts with cult. You know, so the word says we must work out our own salvation with fear and trembling. Just the same way that spicy stuff, right? And we're not allowed to use certain words when it's introduced too early. And this is why, you know, these philia cults, I hope you know what I'm talking about. Peter, yeah, and yeah, these people are interfering with children is so that they can corrupt them with they can corrupt people and cause a lot of distress and trauma, right? And then some of these people who have been interfered with as children, because they're trying to reclaim their power, they then become the predators. Okay, so it's the way of keeping up the cycle. However, there are persons whose agenda is to live outside of God. They do not want to go back to source. They do not want to be absorbed back into source, and they don't want to be good because they believe that being good is boring. But that's only because of the lower intelligence, right? And they might even think that they're super intelligent, but if you choose evil, if you choose harm, you can't be intelligent, no, you have a different type of intelligence, but you're not really intelligent because you wouldn't choose the harm. And something is wrong with you if you choose harm. When we reach a certain level of our evolution, we're always going to choose the right thing. We're going to choose good. So there is a reason why people are choosing harm, but there are certain people, because of egotism, they want to live independently, and they want to do what they claim, like live a life of pleasure seeking, basically, without anyone stopping them, and not caring about symbiosis, which is really stupid. And I'll say this and you'll realize how stupid it is, because if all of these people who just want to do whatever they want, how are they going to live harmoniously with each other? They claim that they're going to live in a plane where it's going to be just wonderful and good, but yet each of them want only what they want and don't mind exploiting. So then how can everybody be happy within a system like that? That doesn't even make sense. And this is what I mean by the stupidity of it all. So you cannot be intelligent and think that you can live a life of anarchy and then everyone is going to be happy. How does that go? That's silly, right? That doesn't make any sense. The only thing that can cause us all, if all of us was happy, is if all of us was symbiotic and all of us was living healthy and all of us wanted, even if we wanted to live independently, just like the angels are living independently and other creatures are living independently, outside of the identity of the all, and they have their own identity and their own consciousness, but they are still choosing good. Right, so you can have your own identity and choose good. And some people will just want to be reabsorbed. This is the path of the mystic, that you want to be absorbed back to God. You want to do your work and you want to be absorbed. You just want to be back in the oneness. You don't have, and it's not to say that there's egotism. Why are there entities who are good? Other entities who are good are there to protect us, basically. So it's not because of egotism. So there is those persons who want to protect us because they have to be independent in order to protect us, because they can do certain functions. And then there are other entities that, because of egotism, they want to do whatever they want to do, and they don't want to be beholden to anything, which is impossible. It'd just be carnage. So they want to live in a world of their own, separate to God. So they want to live in the astral realm. What happens to people when they think that they've sold their soul to the devil, and they don't realize that they have power themselves anyhow? And this was there. You're not going to be, because think about it, like certain people who are targeted from when they were children, so-called devil comes to you, right? It's an entity that comes to you that claims to be the devil. There's a reason why. You have power and they saw the light in you. That's why they came to you. People are being recruited since they were children. Entities are going to children to say, do this, da 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 da. And, there's a reason. It's because the light is in you and they saw it. But you were not, I believe that those people, because for me, I was always for God. From the moment I knew myself, I was seeking God. And there's certain things in me that I think that probably why I was never, my shadow says, because I'm not good enough, Satan didn't want to recruit me. It's my little shadow joke. There are reasons why persons can be recruited, and and other people are going to refuse it, uh, and at certain times we're going to be tested, because as we are training and learning, certain things will happen. And if you say yes to it, like for example, from when I was little, I never wanted anything to be bound. I was never going to say yes to certain things, because I'd watch the cartoons. My mom said I was evil because I was always able to identify with the bad guys, and I say, but they're bad because this happened. And and I would say, if you bound a demon, of course they're going to be angry, like that kind of thing. Like, why would you expect them not to be angry if you bound them? And all the bad guy doing the bad stuff, I'd be like, but there's a reason that they're doing it. So I was always able to see certain things, and I would never want to bound anything, or use anything, or for anything to work for me. So when I had the option, as I got older and I'm studying esoteric science, and I was like, but why would I want to do that? Why would I do that? I wouldn't want to bound any creature. I don't want to be bound. So we practice, do unto others as you would have do unto you. So if you would bound a creature, why do you think that other creatures will not bound you? If you have a certain way of thinking, then you're not going to fall for certain traps, okay? Because you're going to know, like, we don't bound anything, or I'm not trying to have power over anybody. You don't want to have power over anyone. You can't be tricked, okay? You're not trying to be powerful. You don't want to be worshipped by nobody. You can't be tricked. If you would rather suffer than have certain things, you can't be tricked. And if your one aim is to get to know God, is to know source, is to know the all, that's your aim, you're not going to be able to be tricked. And if you know the foundations of Christ's teaching about purification, not being envious, not being jealous, always wanting the best for others as you want for yourself, loving your neighbor as yourself, loving your enemy, you can't be tricked. These things are very important, and that Christ says that we should be able to do more than what he did. So you're supposed to have your power. Any institution that requires you to lock down your abilities and to not develop, so that they can be lords over you, or they can be your whoever power, whatever role they claim that they have over you, and you've got to diminish yourself to be under their care, when that in my opinion is not of Christ. Until I can multiply fish, until I can multiply bread and make it, until I can turn water into wine, until I can walk on water, okay, then I'm not there yet. And I want to know, and I want to keep going. I can manifest things, and I have certain abilities, but I'm not there yet, and I want to continue growing. And any institution that requires me to diminish my power, or to bind myself, no, I don't think that is of Christ. They're supposed to be teaching you the ways of Christ, so that if we say this mountain should move, the mountain will move. That's what Christ told us. So that's what we're working towards. And do let me know what you think of this video, and even send me a heart if you're too shy to leave a comment. I don't know what else have I not said. Ooh, it's dizzy making. Yeah, so if an entity wants to trade you, fame for your soul, that should tell you then that your soul is very much that your soul is worth something. Why would they want it? And you're actually if an entity wants you to trade your soul for fame and money, then you should know that your soul is worth something, even though it's a trick and they can't take your soul. But you should know that is worth something. What they're wanting to do is lock you down, basically. And it's just like Esau. You're selling yourself short. But if no one can be fooled into such if we're not addicts, or if we're not trying to be superior, or if we're not afraid. These are the three things: addiction, fear of being less, so we want to be superior, because then we feel protected. The more superior we are, the more we feel protected, and if we also want to be worshipped. So that's why there are certain things we need to get rid of from ourselves. Vanity is one of these things, and being afraid of failing, because in that we lose our power. People have power over us. If we care about falling, if we care about not being successful and what will people think, well, we've already lost our power. And so we will end up doing dumb things because we want to be seen by humans to be successful. If you live a humble life, don't show off on anybody, and then you're not going to be afraid of falling because you weren't trying to impress anybody in the first place. Right, so hopefully I can salvage some stuff from out of this video, and until next time, love, light.